Welcome to another brand new episode of Undisputed Nerds. This is the podcast where we like to talk about comic book movies, TV shows, sometimes games, sometimes. Sprinkle it in. And we sometimes talk about Star Wars.
You've started this show in a very strange way, Zane. You normally introduce yourself, and now you've gone off about what we talk about. This is weird.
I wanted to do, Hot Ones, where he's like, this is the show where we take hot wings, and I thought, oh, let's try that format.
You want it to be Sean Evans from Hot Ones.
Yeah.
He's a legend.
So let's channel some of that Hot Ones energy. But it's already gone
Zane Evans on Hot Ones. This is going to be amazing. The name change is coming this week, folks.
Yeah, it's the name change for Zane. By the way, I'm Zane Taicho, captain of anime, here as your host. And as always, I'm joined by my fantastic co-host, the gentlemanly gamer.
Radioland, hello everyone. How are you? I'm mixing up as well. Yes. How are you doing, Zane? You gorgeous man, you. Have you been having a good week?
Yeah, not too bad. Oh, you'll like this. I read...
will I?
Oh, yeah, I know. You will like this. I read a Moon Knight comic that came out this week called Moon Knight, Black, White, and Blood.
Oh, blimey. That sounds intriguing. It was the unsuccessful follow-up Michael Jackson song as well, wasn't it? Black and White and Blood. Never did as well as Black and White. Yeah. Oh, that's what is it about?
It's a collection of short stories. It's 3 stories by 3 different authors. Okay. The first one, Jonathan Hickman.
I thought you were going to say it's Michael Black, James White, and Steve Blood for a minute. I was like, well, that's a really unoriginative title that they've come up with. God, sorry. Steve Hickman.
Jonathan Hickman.
John Hickman. Sorry, John.
Yeah.
Sorry, my fake name got stuck in my head. Sorry. John Hickman. Oh, it's interesting you should say that. Well, tell me more about it, and then I'll follow up with the John Hickman interesting thing.
To be honest, it's not that fantastic.
Wow, way to bring the mood down in the room immediately.
I know. I was kind of like underwhelmed by it. I was like, this is very cool, but I mean, they're kind of short stories, so they don't really go anywhere. The one that's quite funny is the second one, where Spider-Man, and they've got Spider-Man in his Far From Home costume. They've drawn him in that outfit, and he's pestering Moon Knight for the Mr. Knight outfit for the Hellfire Gala.
Blimey.
He wants to wear the Mr. Knight outfit for the gala, basically.
There's so many things about that I have questions on, but let's not get into it right now.
Yeah, I know.
It sounds weird and interesting, so that's good. I apologize, by the way, viewers, if you're listening, if I don't have my usual level of exuberance. I was saying to Zane before the show, I feel a little bit poorly this week, so I'm worried I might have a certain thing that I won't mention because it could damage our analytics if I mention it. But yes, you may hear me coughing. I try and apologize if I do. As far as what I've been reading and stuff, as we're getting into the reading segment of the show, it seems. So I went on holiday for a long weekend last weekend, Zane. Which I haven't told you about yet. So I went to Birmingham, which isn't too far from us. Not really renowned for its holiday destinations, but it's fine. You know, I sent you a lovely
city getaway.
It was a nice little city. Yeah, I hung out with a friend of mine, which was it's very good to see him, handsome man that he is. And you know who you are, Bean. You know who you are. I took a photo of a manga anime toy shop thing that I found for you. You enjoyed that, didn't you?
I did. I think I did ask where it was, and you just didn't reply.
No, I didn't, because I don't want you to know anime things. I don't want that. Why would I ever want that? That's not what I want. Anyway, on my trip away, I took with me. I had a couple of kind of backlog books, so I started reading Jonathan Hickman's X-Men. Inferno. I wanted to say Phoenix, but it wasn't Phoenix. Yeah, I started reading X-Men Inferno. It's interesting, man. It's I mean, it follows on from House of X and Powers of X. It's pretty good. I'm not sure how I feel about like destiny and that whole kind of storyline revolving around Moira and the reincarnation. But anyway, I'll leave it at that. I also read Sinister War, Spider-Man Sinister War, which is the weirdest thing. Like, when you haven't... This is an issue that, right, you and I should probably talk about at some point, which comic book readers, there's a real detachment for certain people, because I've had multiple people say to me, oh, I'd really like to get into comic books and stuff, but, like, I just never know where to pick it up from, because, like, there's so much history, you don't want to miss something. And I'm always saying to them, well, you shouldn't kind of, like, worry about the history of everything. You should just have a look at a story and just pick it up because you're interested in it. And, you know, most people know these characters now and they know their history anyway in terms of origin and stuff, so it's not that much of a big deal. Sinister War, though, I had no idea what the hell was going on. Like, I open it up. First of all, like, the last time I properly read a Spider-Man book, Doc Ock was dead, like dead, after Superior Spider-Man situation. Now he's alive again. Don't know how. Yeah. He's skirting on being a good guy, but he's also a villain still. So apparently he has all of his memories from being Superior Spider-Man, which was confusing as hell to me. Then Harry Osborn is now this weird centipede dude back from the dead who wants to kill Peter. Kindred, thank you, that's his name, yes. And I'm like, what? And his big grand plan to kill him is to get every single member of any sinister squad that has ever existed and have them go to war against Spider-Man. It's really weird, Zane.
Yeah. The Nick Spencer run is... There's a lot of confusion and a lot of retcons as well. Yeah,
MJ and Peter's about to propose to MJ again. And I'm like, so one last day happened, but then it didn't happen, but now it happened. And now they're not married, but then they are married, or going to get married. And she's a successful model. I was really confused. I was like, I was totally out of my... Like, I love Spider-Man, I really do. And I've read I've got a lot of the books. You know, but like I said, the last time I guess I properly read it, the last time I got a proper run of it was Superior Spider-Man, because it was just so good. Like, I couldn't not. But, like, yeah, man, it was really... And I read as well the Clone Conspiracy, which is the one where Ben Reilly came back as the Jackal.
Yes.
Your favorite character, back as the bad guy. It's really weird. It's just really weird. Anyway,
it's super weird.
Anyway, we're knee deep into the show and we haven't even talked about what we're talking about this week, Zane. What's going on?
That's true. This week, with the dawning of the Obi Wan Kenobi Disney Plus series, we thought it'd be great to revisit, rewind, and look back at Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, where we get to see a young Kenobi. So
I'm very glad you made me rewatch this, by the way, because I have got some choice things to say about it. So I'm very happy that we're doing this one. We're doing episode 1. I almost said we're doing Kenobi. We're doing episode 1.
I always think, like, in my mind, I think this show is called Kenobi because it's in big writing.
Yeah.
But it's actually called Obi-Wan.
Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Kenobi. Like
Obi-Wan Tiny, basically. So anyway, that's going to be our main topic for the night. But we also have our regularly recurring segments, don't we, Zane?
Absolutely. We not only will we have tips and bits where Gigi will regale us with some news that happened this week, but before all of that...
Zane, did you know that I love to surf?
No, I didn't.
I know, it's amazing. You'd never believe it looking at me, but I am an avid surfer. Not of the sea, though. Oh, no. I am a surfer of the World Wide Web, my friend. And let me tell you something. When I go surfing, I definitely need some protection. Not the usual kind of wetsuit, though. I need some VPN. Do you know what VPN means, Zane?
I don't. What's a VPN?
Well, it would be a virtual private network, and let me tell you, we here at Undisputed Nerds are being sponsored this week, and a big thank you to the episode sponsor, Surfshark VPN. You can get Surfshark VPN 83% off and free months free, Zane, if you go to surfshark.deals/Undisputed Nerds and enter in the promo code Undisputed Nerds. Surfshark VPN lets you trick your device into thinking it's in another country, which opens up a whole world of content library, Zane. So think about it this way. If you're in the UK, you can watch US Netflix, which has a far bigger selection of movies. You can get all of your Batfleck content that I know you love, Zane. I know you're looking for. If you're outside of the UK as well, you can watch amazing apps like BBC iPlayer. And if you're in the US, you can finally get access back to the old WWE Network with its far superior functionality. We've been using, me and Zane have been using Surfshark here at Undisputed Nerds for a while. It is our official VPN, and it doesn't just let us gain access to all the comic book movies, but it also secures our networks by encrypting internet traffic, keeping our location and download history private. Thankfully, so that people can't see me purchasing wetsuits. My favorite feature on the Surfshark, it knows when my phone leaves a trusted connection, like my home or work internet, and it immediately turns on to prevent interference. It's like having, I don't know, Batfleck's Justice League for your phone, Zane.
I know exactly what you mean.
And I know you've got a lot of Batfleck on your phone right now. So sign up to Surfshark today by using our link in the video description below, surfshark.deals/Undisputed Nerds, where you'll get, again, 83% off and your first 3 months free if you use the code Undisputed Nerds. We really appreciate if you just at least check them out, as they're a great company and we love working with them. Support Undisputed Nerds and support your internet privacy with Surfshark.
It's time for some...
Oh, go on. You ready to say it, or you want me to say it?
I'll let you say it this week.
It's simply time to say, what is all the rage with Nicolas Cage?
Oh, I forgot to set it up. Hold on. Here we go.
Oh, for goodness sake.
Here we go.
Broke out my plaid.
What the hell was that? Broke out my plaid. Is that where he talks about shortbread?
I can't remember.
I think that is the interview where he talks about
his
shortbread.
outfit. Yeah.
I really wanted shortbread. It was just delicious shortbread. Right, so for those of you tuning in for the first time, I'm sorry, because we've just gone on a massive tangent already at the beginning of the episode, but hey, let's deep dive. So what we do with What's All the Rage with Nicolas Cage is every week we look at the amazing inspiration that is Nicolas Cage in terms of how weird he is in life, and we talk about it. So we've been through some of his classics. Go back and check out some of our previous episodes if you want to hear some really weird things that he's done or experienced in his life. But this week, I may have the weirdest Nicolas Cage thing that has ever happened to him, Zane.
No way. way.
Again, for those of you who don't know what we do, I read out the title, then I'll let Zane react, and then we'll go into the details of it. All right, Zane, you ready for this?
Okay, I think so.
Nicolas Cage has said he was once stalked by a mime.
Oh,
Got some details?
Life. Yeah, let's hear it.
Okay, so this is on Ranker, who they've got the top 10 Nicolas Cage weird facts, and this is the second one. So I'll read it out. So leave it to Nicolas Cage to get stalked by a male mime, not some dude who threatens to eat your skin or run-of-the-mill single white female replacement junkie, or even the kind of stalker that sends you nice cards all the time, but a silent, weird, useless mime. You may not understand how one gets stalked by a mime, but the only explanation that could possibly work is what he told Parade magazine, and this is a direct quote from Nicolas Cage. I was being stalked by a mime, silent but maybe deadly. Somehow, this mime would appear on the set of Bringing Out the Dead and start doing strange things. I have no idea how it got past security. Finally, the producers took some action, and I haven't seen the mime since. But it was definitely unsettling.
See, now, I've heard of that rumor before, but I never knew if there was any truth to it.
Apparently there is. I don't know whether he gets intimidated by the mime doing the old Marcel Marceau box, and that's what was really freaking him out the most, or whether this was a man who basically was on another lot and had makeup on and was just on that set for the buffet or something, and Nick Cage thought he was stalking him. We'll never know, but I'm curious, what are your thoughts on Nicolas Cage basically just seeing things everywhere and getting intimidated by everything? This might have been after he did drugs with his cat.
That's hilarious though. Like, of all things as well, to claim to be stalked by, like, it's one thing to imagine, like, you see a cat everywhere you go, but to see a mime.
I would just like to point out, this is the same, we've covered this on the show before, but this is the same man who woke up to have a guy at the bottom of his bed eating a fudgesicle naked. And yet, you know, he like one of the most unsettling things that's ever happened to him was being stalked by a mime. I just like the idea he said as well, finally the producers took some action. It's like, what? How many times did you have to complain about this? He was standing in front of me pulling a rope. Can you believe it? It's terrifying. I'm trying to eat a cockroach. Anyway, that is what's all the rage with Nicolas Cage this week. So there will be more. There will be more next week, guys. It never stops. There's always weird things to talk about with Nicolas Cage. So that takes us into tips and bits, my friend. Do you have a little? Do you want to? I can't believe I'm cueing you for my own theme that I created.
You ready?
I'm always ready.
Bits, tips and bits. Come on, everybody. It's tips and bits. There you go.
Yay. All right. So, Zane, we got our usual bit we can do. We got a bit of Marvel, we got a bit of DC, and we got a bit of miscellaneous. Which do you want first, baby?
Hit me with some DC.
Hit you with some DC. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So, Zane.
Mm-hmm.
Let's start with the Warner Brothers stuff. So,
Okay.
we all know by now that Warner Brothers has been merged with Discovery.
Yep.
It was a massive merger. It basically involved a lot of shifting, a lot of changing of the guard, a lot of moving around. So there's been a lot of executive departures on the Warner Brothers side, also removal of certain programming at TBS and TNT. However, interesting things are coming out of it, apparently.
Ooh.
So there is a new head honcho, a guy, the new CEO, in fact. I'm trying to find what his first name was. I can only see his surname, which is Zaslav. David Zaslav, freshly minted CEO David Zaslav. There you go. So this is a report that's actually up on IGN, but the original report comes from the Wall Street Journal. So apparently, Warner Brothers is changing a lot of focus on certain things. However, one thing they are not changing focus on is their tentpole franchises. So reports are apparently pointing to Zaslav looking for a boss for the entire DC brand, akin to the job Marvel Studio boss Kevin Feige has at Disney. So they've finally woken up and gone, oh, there's the guiding light that's guiding most of Disney. We should probably have a similar thing with that. The other thing that I want to get your reaction on from this is apparently they are doubling down on the Harry Potter content. So according to the report from the Wall Street Journal, Zaslav is looking to make Harry Potter-related content for HBO Max. They also state that the CEO has plans to meet with creator J.K. Rowling in the current weeks in order to discuss potential content. Why this is interesting is that Harry Potter brands at Warner Brothers is floundering. Fantastic Beasts did not do well. It made $379 million, The Secrets of Dumbledore, which is a far cry from the $648 million made by the last film and the $811 million that the first one made.
Wow.
Yeah, no kidding, right? Yeah, it was the sixth highest grossing film, Secrets of Dumbledore, last week at the box office. So it's floundered, basically. It's not good. So it's surprising that they are really doubling down on the tentpole franchises, i.e. Harry Potter. I guess, Zane, your thoughts on, first of all, they're doubling down on Harry Potter, but also the seemingly visionary wake up that they've had to finally put someone in charge of creative at DC. Thoughts on both those things?
I'm going to start off with the Harry Potter thing. I think the best sort of direction now is just get a load of different directors, different creators, and just kind of shoot from the hip in terms of ideas. Because, dare I say, like, I don't think JK's got much left in terms of what she wants out of that universe. Like, you know, as a contrast, like, you look at George Lucas and, like, you know, towards the end of his tenure as the head of Lucasfilm and LucasArts, it wasn't the best shape it had been previously. But then as soon as they got someone like Dave Filoni and John Fashanu,
Wow. John Fashanu, the footballer?
Fashanu.
Favreau.
Fashanu.
John Fashanu. Give me a minute, that was too good. Oh yeah, that famous Star Wars creator John Fashanu.
Do you remember when John Fashanu came up with the idea for Baby Yoda?
Oh God, he was the footballer, wasn't he? I'm thinking of John Barnes. He's on from Gladiators. He presented Gladiators. John Fashanu with Ulrika Johnson.
Yes, he did. Yeah.
Awooga!
Wasn't he an athlete runner as well, like Olympian runner? Yeah.
And also, you know, famous creator of Star Wars. So.
Of The Mandalorian.
Oh God, that was hilarious. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to swear. Sorry, God, that was so funny. Right, yes. No, it wasn't John Fashanu, mate. It was John Favreau.
Keep it in. We'll keep it in, don't worry.
Okay, that brought me back from the brink. Thank you. Yes. I think with Harry Potter, I don't know why they're not. I think with certain franchises, it's fine to explore different content of periods and stuff like that. Like Star Wars, you need different time frames now, and we'll talk about that later in our main review. But like, I don't know why you don't go to. This is gonna sound really cliche, but like Harry Potter Next Generation, and like have a grown. I know Daniel Radcliffe is probably not going to, but like have a grown up Harry Potter, an older Harry Potter, and it's his kids. And it's that side of things, you know, because like people love those characters. And like, whilst I like Scarmander, I mean, it was. I still don't think I said it in our review of Secrets of Dumbledore. It was a one-shot thing, and I don't think it should have been a franchise of Fantastic Beasts. I just don't. But oh well. What are your thoughts on the DC finally getting somebody to be in charge solely of the project?
I think it's a great idea. It's just on who will that person be. Like, I've heard fans say James Gunn, because you know the stuff he's done with Peacemaker, and
100% agree, except for the fact that Suicide Squad did not make money, so Warner Brothers will not want to put anyone in charge where it didn't make money. That's the problem. I thought, see, I'm kind of confused, but then I'm not, because obviously the way bureaucracy works in Warner Brothers seems slightly different. But I was under the impression that Jeff Johns was in charge of the creative direction of the DC movies, but then it just seems to have no creative direction right now. Like, it just seems to be all over the place. So
yeah,
because that's what worries me when you say to me about like throwing Harry Potter like everything and everywhere. It's kind of like, well, do we need to do that, or do we have? But I think that would work. You're right, in the wizarding world. I think that's different, because I think you can have those kind of individual stories that don't have to revolve around, because you've just got a place, basically. You can have Hogwarts anytime you want.
And you kind of find a new stylized vision as well, because without someone like, you know, if Marvel didn't do what they did, say, for example, with Thor, we wouldn't have the title with TTs now, would we? Like, we wouldn't have, like, you know, that weird sort of bombastic and stuff, where, you know, they could experiment that sort of thing with Harry Potter now.
I just had an amazing idea for what I'd like to see in Harry Potter, and this is a legit. I would like to see a Harry. So, you know, Prisoner of Azkaban and all those prisoners who are in Azkaban and stuff like that. I would like to see a Harry Potter-esque detective agency. Imagine that, like a buddy cop movie, but in Harry Potter world, where they have to take down the most dangerous wizards.
Don't they call them auroras? Like, can you
That's
imagine
right,
a
buddy
Mark
cop.
Wahlberg?
That's what I said. Yeah, Mark Wahlberg. Oh my god, that would be amazing. That would be amazing. He brings out his Max Payne jacket in the Harry Potter world,
just walking around. What's going on here?
Yeah, Leviosa. Anyway, right. So that was the first bit of DC news. Even though I kind of did 2 for 1. Next bit of news. Bearing in mind how badly they do need a creative director at DC. Here's part of the reason why. So this is a report from Cinema Blend. Apparently, DC has cancelled a movie after just 3 months of development.
Really? What movie?
So, obviously, they're working on big screen versions of Black Adam. They've got the next Shazam! Fury of the Gods. There are also films set to be hitting the streaming world with Batgirl, that kind of thing. But amid all this progress, one film that was set for streaming has now been cancelled, and it's none other than the Wonder Twins.
That only got announced like
3 months ago. Yeah.
Was it 3 months ago? I thought it was like a month ago that they did the casting and stuff, right? Well, I guess not. If it's production 3 months ago,
I think they did. Yeah, no, it's literally only just been. It's only just been in for like, but yeah, they've already got rid of it apparently. The Warner Brothers Discovery have not confirmed it 100%, but the Wall Street Journal have backed up the reports and they've provided reasons for the move. Trade reports that the company CEO David Zaslav, again, I think we're going to be seeing his name a lot in the coming years, believe the movie's $75 million budget to be too high and thus wouldn't generate sufficient returns, which I kind of agree with him on.
Yeah, I think he's right.
Black Adam scribe Adam Zizkiel was set to write and direct the movie. It was to star KJ Apa and Isabel May in the lead roles. So you're right, they did cast it. But yeah, the report goes on to say that the production was a bit of a whirlwind. So thoughts on that, Zane? A movie being announced that it cancelled 3 months later. Are we really surprised?
No, I mean good. Like you won't get disasters like the Marvel legend Michael Morbius.
Don't ever refer to that as a disaster. It's number 1 on Apple TV at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. But yeah, it's a good thing. Like who's asking for a Wonder Twins like movie?
I know. Yeah, I know. Who's really going out there and being like, "Oh yeah, this is great." Yes, it's interesting to say the least. So yeah, there we go. If more proof was needed that DC needs to understand what they're doing, then there it is. But there we go. Anyway, so that's all the DC news for this week. Marvel or Misk?
Ooh, let's do Marvel.
Let's do Marvel. All right. So both bits of Marvel news this week revolve around Disney Plus, with some very interesting statistics coming out this week. So we'll start with the stats one, and then we'll go into some of the juicy stuff. So in Disney's latest upfront presentation to advertisers, Marvel Studios boss Kevin Feige has revealed the most watched MUC series on Disney Plus so far. Ooh. Would you like to have a guess which one it is, Zane?
My money is on either Loki or WandaVision. I think it's going to be Loki.
You are correct, my friend.
Yes.
So this is according to Nielsen's ratings. Their basically shows are rated depending on their watch times. So it's minutes watched. Right. So basically, it's for all the viewers who watched it, it's how many minutes they accrued watching the shows themselves. It's quite a lot. Yeah. So current data for full season watch times for the 4 live action Disney Plus Marvel shows released in 2021 are as follows. Loki, 5.23 billion minutes watched.
Ooh.
So that is 872 million minutes per episode. WandaVision was second with 4.8 billion minutes watched, 534 million minutes per episode. Here's where it gets interesting, right?
Yeah.
Falcon and the Winter Soldier was third with 4.15 billion minutes watched. Hawkeye coming up behind with 3.46 billion, which I find fascinating because I would have thought for sure Hawkeye would have garnered more interest, especially once you found out the reveal of who the big villain was in it. But
yeah,
no. Whereas Falcon and Winter Soldier was kind of just like all right, cool. It dealt with some quite good issues in it, and it was nice to see Sam Wilson become Captain America. But it wasn't. I didn't think it set the world on fire. What are your thoughts on these numbers? What do you think it means?
You're right. It's the sort of tail end of it is really interesting because the star power I would have thought would have been more of the thing. So, for example, I would have thought Jeremy Renner, and Haley Atwell,
Haley Stanfield,
sorry, Atwell.
You got her on the brain.
I've got Captain Carter on the mind.
Mm-hmm.
I would have thought the star power of that would have drawn more people to it, to opposed to, it sounds awful, but the side characters from other movies, because that's what this whole experiment was, wasn't it? Really, it's like, let's give a platform for these characters that we haven't really done much before until now. So yeah, I'm really surprised by that. But then I guess it shows like how much fan favorites they were, like even though they didn't get.
I think what this also shows is how much of an influence the crossover between live action movies and TV has. The one thing that this doesn't record is the what if data. I'm very curious to see what the what if numbers were on that. That was obviously 2021 as well, and it doesn't have any detailings of it in this report. But I will say, it was very, very well established at the beginning of this whole announcement stuff that WandaVision and Loki were going to have massive ramifications for the MCU as a whole.
That's true.
Hawkeye and Falcon and Winter Soldier, whilst Falcon becoming Captain America, everyone pretty much assumed he was going to be Captain America at the end of Endgame anyway. So the fact that Loki and WandaVision were the most watched shows by quite some way, and they had the biggest ramifications for the MCU as a whole, kind of to me suggests that maybe because normies knew that they were going to need to watch these shows in order to keep up to date with what was happening in the movies that they like to go and see, they tuned in to watch it. That is possibly one explanation of it. I would love to see what the Moon Knight figures were.
Me too. Because
the last Nielsen chart for the week of this year, they did review that Moon Knight was watched. The first three episodes, were watched 638 million minutes. So that would put it, if that was consistent over the rest of the time, that would put it roughly around third behind Loki and WandaVision. If it was consistent over that, based on the amount of episodes there were versus the time, that would put it roughly there. So it's fascinating, though. It's really fascinating.
It is fascinating. I was just thinking as well, they're almost in the set order of release as well, aren't they? So is that seen as like diminishing over a space of
possibly
a year?
Possibly. I'm not so. I don't know, because Loki. That's the thing, because it's like it was WandaVision, then Falcon, then Loki, then Hawkeye. So like I would expect it to have been like a declining scale if that was the case. But the fact that Loki is the most watched, and it was amazing anyway, and I loved it. But like, yeah, it, you know, I don't know, but fascinating numbers coming out of it anyway. We'll see what the 2022 numbers were.
What number nerds we are? Did you hear us?
I know. I have to wipe the nerd drool from my mouth as I'm talking about gorgeous numbers. Anyway,
and there's me thinking about Captain Carter at the same time. What is wrong with me?
Disgust me. Right. So, according to Variety, we've been having this. We've seen this coming for a while. Variety reporting on it. It looks like it's now set in stone. A new Daredevil series is officially in the works at Disney Plus. Zane,
Excuse me.
Let's go! Let's go! Yes!
Oh, he's going to be really disappointed when I tell him it's not Ben Affleck, isn't he? Oh, this is going to be really awkward. So, you might have missed that, but unfortunately, it's not going to be Ben Affleck returning to the role of Daredevil. It will be Charlie Cox's Matt Murdock returning. According to Variety, there's a TV show called Covert Affairs duo. Matt Corman and Chris Order attached to write and executive produce the series. And apparently, obviously heavy speculation. It's not 100% confirmed, but it seems very likely, as Charlie Cox has already been introduced as Matt Murdock in the MCU, as well as Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin coming in. So, thoughts on this? I think we all kind of, once Charlie Cox showed up in No Way Home, I think it was all pretty much academic that it was going to happen in some form. Thoughts on it being a TV show? Happy with that? Or would you like to have seen him in the movies? And what do you think the story might revolve around?
I would have liked to have seen a movie. I'm fine with a TV series. I'm a little worried. Because
it's not Ben Affleck.
No, because... I guess from a point of view, Daredevil, Netflix, they went the full mile with it. They could do, they could do blood, they can do violence and things of that nature, where I'm kind of skeptical that Disney, they have to sell lunchboxes at the end of the day. So they're going to have to dial that back. So I don't think
it's a problem, mate.
I don't think it's a problem as such, but I feel like they're going to give us the most watered down version of Daredevil possible.
I would disagree with that quite heavily for two reasons. Three reasons, in fact. So, firstly, Disney Plus currently has the existing run of Daredevil from Netflix on it. If a kid wants to go and watch Daredevil, they just type in Daredevil on Disney Plus, and up comes the bish bash bosh version of Daredevil, no problem. Secondly, Disney Plus has very adult content on it. They have the entire library of Fox movies, including Predator and Die Hard and all heavy duty movies, which if they really want to limit it for certain audiences, they could just put it under Star,
Yeah.
Thirdly, I agree with you to a point that I don't think it would be as dark and gritty as existing Daredevil series was. However, it's very clear that Marvel are flexing their muscles when it comes to different types of genre of things. Look at Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness and how really brutally graphic some of the violence was in that, because it was brutal. And I've watched it back because somebody's pirated it and put it on YouTube, and I've seen some of the scenes again, and it's just as horrible as I remember it being. So I agree with you. I agree with you to a point. I don't think it's going to be as blood pouring out the mouth kind of like violence as we got used to with Netflix. However, I don't think it's going to be a like light-hearted look at the Man Without Fear.
It's not going to be Born Again, but I don't know. I'm
Jason
just a little
Bourne.
skeptical. Huh?
Nothing.
Jason Bourne. I don't know. It's kind of like, what do they adapt next? Because, are they just going to rehash like Man Without Fear, Born Again, and everything else that Netflix did? Or are we going to get, say, for example, the latest Chip Zdarsky run, where Daredevil gets arrested and goes to prison because
normally with Marvel, they'll take something that has happened in the books and they'll modify it for the screen, and it won't be it'll be like little pieces here and there of bits that we've seen in the comics before. That's my guess as to what they'll probably do with it. To be honest with you, I don't think it'll be any particular storyline. I think it'll be tailored around the MCU to cater for it. Yellow suit. That's what I'm hoping. I want to see yellow suit. That'd be great. All right. So moving on to the last bit of news for the miscellaneous topics. The first bit of news I have is hilarious, and I will not read out the whole thing because it does involves heavy spoilers for something that is not yet out. So I won't go into the details of it, but I just thought this is absolutely hilarious. So The Hollywood Reporter, this comes to us from, thank you very much, Stranger Things season 4. It is coming out next week. It is coming out on the same day as Obi Wan Kenobi. So, Zane, season 4 is just over a week away. However, the merchandise for Stranger Things has hit the shelves already. And
have Lego done it again?
Not Lego this time. This one's even more funny. There is a tie-in Monopoly game that has spoiled some major plot points.
No.
It's hit shelves before penultimate season has hit the screens. It looks like a few people have temporarily paused their D&D campaigns in favour of picking up a new Stranger Things Monopoly game that ties into the upcoming 4th season. Images of the board game have started making the rounds online, with a few of the game's cards spoiling major plot points for the show.
What?
A Reddit thread has been created about the leak, claiming the game was purchased at a nationally recognized retailer and purchased fair and square by a consumer. Nobody stole it. Nobody leaked a sample. Many people have been sharing the cards online and theorizing about the upcoming events. The Duffer Brothers are said to have had a total meltdown about the leak spoilers, as sources claim that they were never consulted about the game and certainly didn't approve of it being released ahead of season 4, regardless of whether or not it was meant to be, as they like to maintain a certain level of secrecy around the show. 4th season marks the beginning of the end for Stranger Things, as the Duffer Brothers announced in the letter fans that the season Netflix would wrap up after season 5, meaning that there's plenty to be revealed about the characters and the lore of the Upside Down in the next season. Knowledge of what's coming varies from person to person. So now I will say right now, I really think that companies do need to get a better handle on their merchandise and marketing for these kinds of things, because so many times we've had so many things spoiled from Lego sets, or as you said, or from Funko Pops or stuff from that, just with like concepts or ideas. What are your thoughts on Monopoly being the one to out Stranger Things?
That's wild. That is really wild. Of all the franchise, like merchandise, I should say, long-standing Monopoly is the one that's
Monopoly's the one that killed 11.
Wow. Plus, they cover so many franchises, don't they? Like, there's Star Wars Monopoly. There's like anime-based ones I saw recently. That's wild.
It's hilarious. It's absolutely hilarious. Anyway, moving on. So this one kind of skirts the cusp of being Marvel again, because just from the company that owns it. But I think we can all agree, one of the greatest comic book movie films that's ever existed, Zane. I mean, as soon as I say some of the stars of it, I think that you'll understand exactly what I'm talking about. I'm just gonna shoot off some names for you, and you try and tell me exactly who it is. What film it is. So
right.
John Fashanu, obviously. He's in everything. Petter Wilson, Stuart Townsend, Jason Fleming, You still not getting it?
No.
Richard Roxburgh. You want one more, and this is the one that you'll get it on?
Okay.
Sean Connery.
League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
I am, of course, talking about the fantastically awful League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. It's coming back, baby. Apparently, the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen is being rebooted for Hulu, THR reports. The Disney Studio division under 20th Century Studios will be responsible for the reboot, which will be written by Justin Haythe, who is responsible for Revolutionary Road and Red Sparrow, and produced by Susan Montfort, Erwin Stoff, and Don Murphy, the latter having also produced 20th's original adaptation of the series back in 2003.
No.
Written by Alan Moore and illustrated by artist Kevin O'Neill, the League is set in the Victorian England and borrows elements of stories like Dracula, Sherlock Holmes, yada, 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 yada. Thoughts on this one coming back, Zane? I'll tell you what, I was actually, I will say this just before, because the book itself is incredible. Like, if you haven't read League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, he did a number of them. They range from fantastical to really horrific bits in it. I think it did win the National Comics Award, I think, in '99 for like the best comic or something like that. But the books themselves, Alan Moore has gone on record as saying the books themselves were specifically written and drawn to not be translated into television and film. He did not want them translated into television and film. They are supposed to be a fantastical medium that exists only in comic books.
Mm-hmm.
I was on board for an adaptation and a reboot of it until I read that the same producers who did the god-awful movie are also going to try and do the series. What are your thoughts on this one, buddy? I mean, yeah.
It's wild because that movie is almost like a staple of its time when it came out. Like it has those sort of, I don't know how to call them, those markers of the action comic book movie at that time, like,
yeah,
the obvious plot twists, the weird, I can't even remember some of the weird stuff in it.
For those of you who weren't born in the era that League of Extraordinary Gentlemen came out, because me and Zane were both young men when that came out. I know, shocking, right? Who would have thought that I could have been a young man once? Anyway, if you don't want to watch the full film, and I wouldn't necessarily recommend watching the full film, but if you want a flavor of exactly what comic book movies were like at the time, go and watch the trailer for the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, and basically you'll get almost the entire plot plus exactly what the movie is like in that 2-minute trailer. That's all you need. I didn't realize, though, it wasn't a flop, technically. It made its money back. Yeah, it had a budget of $78 million and it grossed $179 million worldwide, which means it basically, you take its budget and then double it for the marketing.
Yeah.
And it made its money back. So it wasn't a flop, but it was awful.
That movie, and like everyone has one-liners. No one has real conversations. Exactly. Everyone talks in one-liners, which is just hilarious but awkward at the same time.
There's a bit where I remember vividly. There's a bit in the film where Quatermain, who is Sean Connery, he's trying to recruit Mr. Hyde.
Yeah,
and he's chasing them across the rooftops. And Mr. Hyde throws a chimney at him, which he has to make Tom Sawyer dodge before he gets hurt. Oh yeah, Tom Sawyer's in this, and he wasn't in the book either. Don't know why. Anyway, and Connery's response to almost being slapped in the face by a chimney is to go, "Oh, that was naughty." What is that?
It's just amazing. At the time as well, I don't know why, but in my headcanon... Oh, actually, I know why. In my headcanon, I thought this movie and the Hugh Jackman Van Helsing were the same universe.
Jesus Christ. Yes. Because of Mr. Hyde, probably, I would guess. But yeah, oh, man.
It's because the same actor who played as Moriarty in.
Oh, Richard Roxburgh. Yeah, he was Dracula, wasn't he?
He was Dracula. Yeah,
He was everywhere in the early 2000s.
he was everywhere.
He was in Mission Impossible 2. He was in Moulin Rouge.
Yes.
Like, he's in everything. I was like, what the hell happened to Richard Roxburgh? He was great. He's a great actor, but yeah, it's just so weird. It was just so weird. God, that's another weird film. We should totally do a retro review of Van Helsing as well. That would be amazing. I would love to watch back that awful film. And Lee, we should totally start doing this. We should totally start doing retro reviews of these things. Just
let us know in the comments. Let us know in the comments like what retro action movie you'd love us to review. Because I remember loads of people saying Van Helsing was like the pinnacle of like DVD experience. Do you remember that? Like on the verge, like no.
I remember everyone saying because they had that amazing comparison where they liked to compare Hugh Jackman to Harrison Ford, and I remember at the time of Van Helsing coming out, I remember there was like loads of articles where it said if X-Men was his Star Wars, then Van Helsing could be his Indiana Jones, and I was like, wow, that hasn't aged well.
Who wrote that? That must be IGN.
It was Empire. I think it was Empire magazine.
Oh, wow.
Who wrote it at the time. But yeah, there you go. Anyway, that's all the tips and bits for this week. And speaking of retro reviews, what are we doing, Zane?
We are going to take a look back at the fantastic Phantom Menace, which
Phantom Menace.
I think is a great title. Like maybe too good a title for this movie.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I don't know whether you want to. I don't think we need to do spoilers, do we? For a film that's like, yeah. Okay, so yeah.
I guess at the top, I think in terms of what we should cover: plot, characters, visuals, and then action.
Ooh. I like this. I like where you've gone with this one. He's broken it down this week. Okay, plot wise. Right, so I was going to talk to you about this earlier on when we mentioned Star Wars before. I find the dichotomy of the trilogies fascinating, right? Now, I'm not talking... We'll leave the original trilogy to one side because everyone can pretty much agree that the original trilogy is the best in Star Wars. Everyone loves the original trilogy. Yep. It is a bit dependent on when you grew up and what the times are, but those set of stories, they are the best set of stories. What I find fascinating about this, right, is that I remember when Phantom Menace first came out, everyone hated it. Like, everyone hated it. Like, it was like, George Lucas has ruined my childhood. It is the worst thing I've ever seen, yada, 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 right? Then Attack of the Clones came out, and then Revenge of the Sith came out. And, like, when you look at the picture overall and then link it into Episode 6... I actually had a much more interesting experience watching this film, seeing the whole picture of it.
Yeah.
Now, look at the Disney Star Wars trilogy, right?
Yeah.
When The Force Awakens came out, everyone was like, Star Wars is back! This is the most amazing thing ever! I mean, it's brilliant! It's so good! Force Awakens is the best! Now that the other two films have come out, you are widely seeing, these are the worst trilogies ever. The new trilogies are the worst. It's awful. How could Disney ruin everything about Star Wars? And it's like, it's completely flipped. It's like, it's gone from one individual story being praised as amazing and one individual story being praised as terrible to actually a wider trilogy now being terrible and an individual story actually flowing into the narrative of the rest of the films. It's really interesting to look at it like that. Do you want to talk about the plot of this one, buddy, before I go into it? Because you know I always have a lot to say about Star Wars.
Yeah, I guess plot-wise, you're going to have to bear with me on this one. Even though I watched this on May 4th, and we're on the 20th today, May 20th.
Do you want me to do the plot? Because I watched it yesterday, so I can do it if you want.
No, let's see how well I do. So there is a trade war happening regarding politics somewhere, and basically the Palpatine is trying to use this to his advantage to rise to power. No, I've fluffed it already.
No, you haven't.
No,
that's
no.
the sad thing about it. You haven't. I mean, that's what like it's ridiculous. Keep going, man. I'm interested to see where you go with it.
In this Rise of Power, they try to do horrible things to Naboo, which means the princess has to leave Naboo, so she's not forced into this treaty.
All right. I can feel you struggling instantly with this. So, would you like me to just take over just for a little bit?
Yeah, I think you got this.
Yeah, I mean, okay. So, it's that classic. So it's that classic kids' TV story of intergalactic politics and trade routes being negotiated that we all remember. Routes. Yes, that we all remember.
Trades. Yeah.
So there is a company. Sorry, there is an entity in Star Wars called the Galactic Trade Federation. They are responsible for droids and for war battle bots and that kind of thing. They also control several trade routes in the galactic region. They're a bit angry. They're a bit angry, Zane.
Okay.
And so the film opens with them creating a trade blockade around the planet of Naboo, because they want to show off just how angry they are. What are they angry about, ladies and gentlemen? Well, we're not really sure, because the only reason they've done it is actually because they're secretly being run by Darth Sidious behind the scenes, and it turns out that he really wants this to happen. So, the beginning of the film is the Galactic Senate sending their representatives to do negotiation of a trade war. Now, the one thing I would say about this is that the representatives, by the way, are the Jedi Knights, Qui-Gon Jinn and Ewan McGregor's Obi Wan Kenobi. The one thing I will say about this is that I remember when I watched the first Star Wars that the entry, like the opening intro of Star Wars, was amazing. It was like there was this fighter shot, and it's like, the spaceship comes in, it's like, and then the Star Destroyer comes behind it, and it's all like, do, and then you get Darth Vader showing up, and it's all like, oh my god, this guy's terrifying. This is the most amazing stuff I've ever seen. I will say, if you're looking to open a franchise, it's probably not the best thing to do to have a spaceship fly into a port and then a couple of Jedi go out and go, we're here for the trade negotiations. It doesn't really instill the same kind of excitement. I will say it that way. So anyway, Zane is correct. After it's all Palpatine's machinations. He is the Phantom Menace behind the scenes that you don't really see. And he is using the Galactic Trade Federation basically as an excuse to start a war, because he knows that if he starts a war, basically the Senate will panic and then give him all the power. That's the long-term storyline, which arcs over 3 episodes, which eventually leads to him becoming the Emperor. This is the beginning of him becoming the Emperor. The way they do it is just awful. It's so ham-fisted, because it kind of shows Palpatine. I mean, ultimately Palpatine's plan worked, and they do a lot better writing him in 2 and 3, but he just comes across as such a dork in this. It's unbelievable. It's like there's a bit where, like you said, so the Trade Federation, they basically want Princess Amidala to sign over these treaty rights so that Palpatine can do some stuff in the Senate and do some other stuff, even though Palpatine knows that's never going to happen. She'll never sign over the things, so she can then use that as a vote of no confidence. This way I'm explaining this, by the way, that's as boring as the plot is on this one. That is what it's like. Anyway, the idea is that so they can overthrow the Supreme Chancellor, and then Palpatine can become a Chancellor and get nominated and become Supreme Chancellor, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Thing is, though, Palpatine doesn't anticipate the fact that she might just leave the planet and go off on a jolly. And like one of the scenes is like, this is unexpected for her. Like, how do you not? You're supposed to be the Dark Lord of the Sith. How do you not anticipate people's moves? So yeah, she goes off on a jolly. They get out of Naboo, which has been blockaded and trapped, whilst the droid army of the Trade Federation invades. to basically hold it under power. And
ransom, don't they?
Ransom, that's it. That's correct. Yeah, basically,
Yeah.
they want their they essentially want kind of like their money or recognition from the Senate or something like that, and that's why they're holding Naboo. I can't remember. It's superfluous. The Trade Federation are the ones who are going to be responsible for the Separatist army that starts the Clone Wars. Basically, that's what it all kicks off from. So, Qui-Gon and Obi Wan Kenobi, they. It's such a weird beginning to this film because they're sent in as negotiators, then they get gassed. That doesn't work on them because they hold their breath because they're Jedi. They can hold their breath. Then they escape and head down to the surface to rescue the Queen.
Mm-hmm.
But their detour, well, when they get to the surface, Zane, what kooky Star Wars character did they encounter?
They meet the one and only Jar Jar Binks.
Yeah, Jar Jar Binks.
The unique action figure that every 6-year-old is going to ask for Christmas of 1998.
Yeah,
or whatever this movie came out.
It's at this point that I do ask, what the hell happened to Ahmed Best? Because he didn't get much work after this one, I don't think.
No, sadly.
Jar Jar. Where do we begin with Jar Jar?
I guess Jar Jar is the C-3PO.
I suppose I'm talking about characters, aren't I? I shouldn't talk about characters until we get into the main thing, should I? I'm sorry, you did say we should segment it. Basically, the plot is that they waste a load of time going to a Gungan city, and then they
meet Brian Blessed.
They meet Brian Blessed. They manage to save the Queen, get off the planet. They can only go so far because their hyperdrive's broken. They land on Tatooine because, everyone always lands on Tatooine because apparently it's in the center of this universe. Whilst on Tatooine, they meet a young Anakin Skywalker. Again, I'll save it for characters, but my God, do I find this kid annoying. Anakin helps them, offers them shelter, provides them the means to get off the planet in the form of pod racing. We get the pod race where Anakin, it looks like he's going to lose, but then he wins. They get off the planet. They go to Coruscant. Palpatine gets the powers of the Chancellor. They then go back to Naboo because, why not? And then it's the droid army attacking Naboo, having a war with the Gungans. In between that, we get introduced to Palpatine's apprentice, who I want to talk about a lot in characters, Darth Maul. And then it's the end situation where it's one of the best lightsaber fights in the entire franchise between Darth Maul, Qui-Gon, and Obi-Wan. And Anakin accidentally saving the day, and then a droid army and Padme doing some stuff as well. That's literally it. That is it. That's the whole film. I will say this, right? I enjoyed watching this film more yesterday than I have done for a while, and I think it's because I knew what it was going into. I think if I'd have watched this on its own without the context of the other two films, I would have hated it at the time. I can totally understand why people did not enjoy this movie. It feels like a mess. It feels like a mess. It just feels like there's boring trade delegations and weird plot points that just go off here, there, and everywhere. And it's it feels like George Lucas is kind of like, oh, I've got an adult audience who loves Star Wars, but I've also got kids who I need to cater for. So, I'm going to have an absolutely incredible lightsaber fight and a great pod racing scene that's going to be great for the adults. And then I'm going to throw Jar Jar in there and the Gungans for the kids. And it just, it's just like, what are your thoughts on the plot of this, Zane, and how the movie feels?
As I can't even remember how old I was when I watched this. But I remember not caring about any of that sort of machinations. I just wanted to follow Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan's journey, because that's the only thing I cared about, like, because they're the Jedi. Like, I'm here to see the Jedi movie sort of thing. And like you said, there is a great payoff because you get the Duel of Fates at the end. The pod racing sequence, yeah, that's incredible. Because I mean, visually, it's amazing, especially for the time.
Yeah.
But everything else is just like.
Can we flip the order of things a little bit and talk about visuals and then talk about kind of characters? Like, what was the other one you had? Visuals. You had something else.
Visuals, characters, and action.
Yeah, can we talk about action and visuals like next, and then we'll end on characters, because I've got a lot of things that I wanted to go into with characters. As far as like the action and visuals in this are concerned, I think that it ranges from really, really good stuff to like really, really bad visuals and stuff. And I'm just it's a weird in between. So this is, I mean, famously, you know, Ewan McGregor's gone on record as saying that like he's enjoyed the Mandalorian experience a lot more because he actually saw and experienced the landscape and the stuff that was happening around him, because the Mandalorian set projects it there, you know, and then they can film it like that. And this was famously pretty much all done on green screen. I mean, there's very few moments in this film where it's a set, like very few moments. It's almost all exclusively green screen. And I think it's both a good and bad thing. I think that Star Wars is one of the biggest complaints that a lot of people had about the prequels was that it was too polished and it was too clean.
Really?
And everything felt too, you know, like, I think a lot of the charm of the original Star Wars was the idea of like, oh, it looks like a, you know, that space station could be like a bunch of egg crates that they've just like stapled together, and it's like on a, what, you know what I mean? Like, it's like the ramshackleness of it was the appeal. But I always try and explain to people, well, there is the idea that like everything, like there was a huge war that happened. Like the idea was there was a massive war that engulfed the entire galaxy pre-episode 4. So it does make a lot of sense that there's going to be a lot of ramshackle, like put together bits and pieces, because this is post-war time, you know. And so the idea that this was a clean, crisp, like Republic era that has been in effect for like 1,000 years, that makes a lot of sense, because, you know, everything would be running smoothly, and everything should be running smoothly, and so everything's going to look really nice and shiny and fine.
Just to add to that point as well, I remember there being a point where they remastered the DVDs, and I think this is the version that's on Disney Plus as well, where the puppets have been replaced with CG. So, for example, famously, Yoda in the first version was a puppet, and then in the digital remaster, he's a CG.
In Phantom Menace?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
So, you know the council scene?
I did notice that, actually. Yeah, you're right. He is, yeah. But Yoda's barely in this, by the way. Yoda and Mace Windu are barely in this movie. I didn't notice that. Now you say that. Yeah, I thought he did look weird. That's fascinating. I mean, it's a stupid decision as well, but fascinating. Oh, there you go. I mean, I just for the visual effects and that side of things, I'm trying to think of there's certain pieces of it where I thought that is super janky. The underwater Gungan city looked particularly jank. I thought it wasn't good. It did not look good. Looking back on it, I mean, I'm sure at the time it was cutting edge CGI, but it didn't look good. It really did not. No. Coruscant as well. Some of the landscaping in Coruscant, when they're there was a nice moment where Obi-Wan's talking to Qui-Gon on Coruscant, and there's a sunset, and they're looking out across when you see all the cars going past and everything like that in Coruscant. Yeah. It didn't look good. It looked very bad. It was like they were in like a, you know, stock footage of like the Jedi Knight game. Oh, that's not good. That's not good. Flip that. On the flip side of that, the starfighter battle, the Naboo starfighter battle at the end, which is all CGI, that is amazing. Like, that looks really good. That looks really, really good. Also, the pod racing scene that we talked about before, that pod racing scene is amazing. Like, there's nothing I can say about it. No matter how much I may feel about dorky Anakin, it's amazing. Like, it's so well done, and it's such a brilliant, like, it's such a great concept of like an idea in Star Wars as well, to have this, like, you know, it's a racetrack, but they have their own version of like race cars. It's like, it just looks so, it's just so good. It's the noises in that as well. Whilst we're talking about visuals and sound, the noises of the different pod races in that like get me every time as well. Because like Sebulba's like pod, and then like just Anakin's like it's, I love it.
It's as you say, the engine noise and stuff as well, where it like kicks in, and when he's you can tell when he's having like a boost or something. I even, again, different variations. There's a version that was like an extended pod racing sequence. I don't know if it was like a director's cut version or something, but I believe there's a part where Anakin's side-by-side race with Sebulba is extended.
Cool.
So yeah, there again, something that's difference between like the digital version and the theatrical.
I think the biggest problem I have with this film, as far as like visuals and action is concerned, is it's very start then stop. Like there is a thing about pacing. Like there is a thing about pacing and the way that a movie should be paced to let the audience not get bored, but not be overhyped from something, right? And it's if you want to look at the pacing of it, like Endgame does this really, like Avengers Endgame did that really well, just in terms of kind of like, it's not dull. Like there's a lot of plot points where it can be quite boring because you're talking about time travel and stuff, but the flow of things and the action remains, and it's like, okay, that's an exciting bit. Okay, this is a talky bit. That's an exciting bit, but it goes into a talky bit. That's, you know, and it flowed really well until you had this massive climactic battle at the end, which lasted forever, and it was, you know, it was amazing. It was amazing. And this one, you get little burst of you get boring talking at the beginning, very boring talking, little burst of action, then boring talking, then little weird chase sequence action thing, then lots of talking, lots of talking, pod racing, really interesting, cool, good, talk, Duel of the Fates, there we go, we're done. It's such a weird pacing on this film. It's really odd. Yeah. And I get, like, this is why I say it's very hard to now look at this film without the context of the other two, because I get what Lucas is trying to, like, he's establishing how Palpatine becomes Palpatine. Like, it's how he becomes the Emperor. Like, and it's all the idea is that the Sith are all about plotting. They are all about machinations, because they can't go head on against the Jedi. And it's established every single time when they do that, they lose. Every single time. Because one of two things happen. Either the Jedi just beat them down into submission, or the Sith have so many of them that they become obsessed with their own power, and that they infight amongst themselves and eventually lose anyway. That's why the rule of two works, because there should only ever be two Sith, so that they can plot and work against the Jedi in the background before doing the final strike. It's well thought out in that regard. It really is. And when you look at it on the whole and take in the whole story, it is well done. It's just, for a standalone movie, it struggles. It struggles.
Just before we move on, the last thing I'll say about the action as well, I don't know why there's certain moments that look really jarring, such as, when they're fighting the destroyers and Qui-Gon says, "We got to get away." They do this weird sort of flash run. Like just almost like the still just runs off the screen sort of thing, which is really weird. And I was like, is that a blur? The other time as well, when in the Duel of Fates, Obi-Wan gets kicked off. I think it's Obi-Wan gets kicked off one of the runways, and he falls quite some distance, and then he manages to, catch himself.
Recover and force jump up, yeah.
And it's the force jump up, because he makes it look like, the way it's cut, it looks like a little hop back onto the same platform.
Every time he does it, I think of that meme where it, like, when he goes off into the galaxy. So it does it, and in my head I just go It's good. It's good. All right. Well, let's get on to talking about the characters then, because there's a lot to cover in that. So I guess, I mean, this film really like establishes the entire prequel trilogy. As it's the first one, as you would expect. So how do you want to break this down, Zane? I'm assuming you don't want to talk about bit characters because there's no real point, is there? We're not going to talk about Anakin's mum or what's it, Sebulba? Not Sebulba, but Watto.
Guido?
I'm not sure.
Oh, Otto, yeah.
I don't see the point in talking about them necessarily, or the Supreme Chancellor before Palpatine.
Jabba's in this.
Yeah, Jabba's in this for 5 seconds.
Makes a cameo. There's no point really discussing those. But I guess what I found really weird about this is that if you're not a Star Wars fan, you'll have no idea who Qui-Gon Jinn is going into this.
I had no idea who Qui-Gon Jinn was going into this.
They don't really. Do you know what I mean? They don't explain. This is Qui-Gon. Like, do you know what I mean?
He's never mentioned in any of the original trilogy either. So it's just kind of like there's no context for him whatsoever.
Yeah, but considering he's our main character that we follow throughout this entire thing, right? Like,
yeah,
you would think, there'd be at least some sort of conversational piece where someone goes, "That's Qui-Gon Jinn. He's been a Jedi Master. Well, not a Jedi Master, but a Jedi Knight for like years." Like,
I don't know. You know what? I don't know. Because the thing about this one is that it's an ensemble piece. Actually, when you look at it on the whole, it's not riding on just Liam Neeson. Although Liam Neeson is one of the main focal points of it. But when you think about it, I think actually Ewan McGregor is not in this actually as much as you expect him to be. He really isn't. Natalie Portman is in this loads. Like, she's a big
and Keira Knightley.
And Keira Knightley, yes. But like Natalie Portman's in this a lot. As is, what's his name? Jake Lloyd? Is that the guy who's young Anakin?
I'll do a quick Google.
I can't remember. Whatever young Anakin is. He's in it load. But this is I mean, I guess you're right, because this is a Liam Neeson. This is basically Liam Neeson and Natalie Portman. This is this is their film. Natalie Portman is in this. I can't emphasize how much Natalie Portman is actually in this. She's in it loads. I think having no history and no background to Qui-Gon is a weird thing, I guess. Yeah. Like, there's no establishing like thing with it. It's why I question maybe opening the movie with a trade delegation. It probably would have been a lot more, or made a lot more sense to show maybe Qui-Gon training Obi-Wan a little bit.
Yeah. It's, I guess, like, you don't feel any sort of like emotional sort of motive or drive from him until we get to Tatooine. Like, and that's quite a long time to wait.
But I wonder if that's on purpose, because the Jedi are supposed to be emotionless. That is the whole thing. Maybe it was that, that they are just a serene inner peace and a force of movement throughout the galaxy. They're not really, they're not supposed to be emotional or anything like that.
Sure.
I don't know. Yeah. I see what you mean. I mean, Qui-Gon is basically a bit devoid of anything, really, isn't he? He's just kind of like there you go. It's nameless Jedi. That's essentially what he is.
In so many ways, he feels like a plot device more than
I would agree 100%.
He's the guy who finds Anakin.
He's the Anakin finder. Yeah, that's exactly. he's the thing that Anakin. He's the thing that finds Anakin and then makes Obi-Wan train Anakin. Because the whole purpose of him being in this film is to die. That's the only reason he's in this film.
Yeah.
I like Liam Neeson a lot, and I do I believe him as a Jedi. I really genuinely believe him as a Jedi Knight. Like, I think it's great casting as far as he's concerned, because like, man, the guy from Taken, he could totally be a Jedi Knight. That's he's badass. I liked his performance. I think sometimes he plays it a bit, because Qui-Gon never in lore, Qui-Gon never rose to the rank of master, not because he wasn't ready, but because he was he's a little bit of a Jedi rebel. Oh, he goes against the flow, isn't he? and so the council never granted him master. So it's a similar kind of thing to Anakin, actually. In the long term, council never granted him the status of master, and they never did it for Qui-Gon either. So I kind of, he's an interesting, especially when you find out later as well that he trained Dooku, I think, or did Dooku train him? Dooku trained him, I think.
Yeah. Dooku
one way around. I can't remember which way around it was. So it's interesting. I would like to have known more about him before he died, but I understand what his plot device point was. You know, he was there to drive forward the narrative, find Anakin, and then die, so that there was motivation for later things. That is basically what it is.
Yeah, that is it. Yeah.
What do you think of Natalie Portman in this as Queen Padme?
You know what? I think it's a great performance. Like, it is, hands down. And considering her age at the time as well, like, I don't think she was that. Maybe like in a. Old. Yeah, I don't think she was 20 yet.
I think she just turned 18 when she did it.
Wow. I think it's a great performance. I mean, dare I say, I don't think it's a demanding role, but at the same time, I still think like it's a great. And to have what's even weird as well is the swap out with Keira Knightley. Like it is almost seamless between the two.
I know,
and that's what's quite spooky between it as well.
Yeah. Yeah, well, when you think about them now, I mean, there's total differences between them now, but at the time they were very much like looking very similar. I think that I think Natalie Portman carries a lot of this film on her back. I really do. You know, she's got a hard role to kind of fill in the sense of like being this kind of like. So she was elected as queen. It's an election on Naboo that makes them queen. And which is a weird kind of thing when you think about a monarchy and the way it's supposed to work. But like, she was elected to this post and she represents her people, but then she also has to juggle this quite weird early relationship, which we know what it will turn into, because obviously she meets Anakin when he's like 8, and that's the guy that she's going to eventually have kids with. And she's a lot older than him. And so it's this weird kind of like, you know, she has to like obviously be enamored with him and like him a lot as a child, you know, because, you know, he's this cool kind of kid. But then there's also like weird like undercurrents of, you know, what's coming kind of thing, you know? So that was a really weird relationship for me, because it's like, you don't want her to come across too much like a sister or like a mum, for it to then go into that in like late, you know. But then apparently George Lucas has a thing for kissing his sister, I guess, if Luke and Leia are anything to go by. But go on.
I know what you mean. There's that sequence as well where he's on the ship and he's cold in space because he's never had that experience before, and you know, she gives him a blanket and stuff, but it could be almost interpreted as like a mother sort of. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yes. Yeah, I do know what you mean.
You
always say
thing,
interpreted. Yeah. Have you noticed that? You always say interpreted.
No, I just can't
man.
talk.
What's wrong with you? Jesus. It's I think that she does juggle the very nice, that aside, that Anakin stuff aside, she does juggle that really nice kind of like being an empathic kind of person who cares about her people, between this also like badass warrior queen kind of thing where she's just, you know, she's leading the charge against the droid army at the end and, you know, trying to break into the palace and do the thing. I love Natalie Portman. Like, I really love Natalie Portman. She's like always been like one of my favorite actresses for multiple reasons, not just for that. For, you know, and I loved her in Thor. You know, she's just like, Black Swan is still really haunting, but it's an incredible film if you haven't seen it. She's done so much good work, and you know, even when you think about like she made her debut like when she was like Jake Lloyd's age, like 8.
Yeah.
In Leon. Yeah, which is another amazing film. Like, and she's 100% less annoying than the kid that is in Phantom Menace. It is Jake Lloyd, right? Yeah, it's him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess, I mean, her arc is very nice. It's kind of sad to me that after this, her involvement in the franchise goes right downhill, and she's just barely involved in it, really. You know, I mean, she gets her like little Princess Leia inspired thing in episode 2, and then she's kind of like a background character in 3. She's not really in it very much. It's just sad. It's just sad that, but yeah, she was great in this. All right, let's. Well, I figure I want to talk about Obi-Wan and Darth Maul kind of towards the end. Let's talk about Sidious and annoying Anakin next, then.
Okay.
So, give me your views on annoying Anakin, Zane.
I mean, I'm trying to think of the right words now. So he's there for 2 reasons. First reason, of course, as we mentioned, he's Anakin Skywalker. Like the whole movie is shaped around him. But at the same time, he is this 6 to 12-year-old child, so that the target audience base can insert themselves in. Because, you know, at the end of the day, this movie is built to sell figures. Like, I remember the figures were everywhere when this came out, and they had like those weird sort of ID cards with them.
It's Star Wars and merchandising, baby. That's what it's all about.
Yeah. So, let's just say after Naboo, it's probably a good thing that his role was
matured.
Takes a back seat.
Well, I thought you were going to say after Naboo. Yeah, sorry, yeah. The problem for me is it didn't. That's the issue that I had, was that he was still like, if you think about the whole thing, think about the whole plot of this movie, right? And think about the whole ending of that, right? With the exception of the Duel of the Fates fight between the Jedi and Darth Maul, they would have lost, right?
Yes.
They would have lost the entire battle if Anakin Skywalker hadn't got lucky and flown up on autopilot into a droid control ship and then accidentally blew it up. Accidentally, Zane.
Yeah.
The Dark Lord of the Sith.
But then it just adds to the accolades of Anakin Skywalker. At the age of 8 years old, he saves the Gungans.
Yeah, but nobody knew that. Nobody knew it was him, did they? That was the whole point. Nobody knew.
I think he's such a great pilot.
Yeah, no kidding. I think for me, the thing about it was that there's a couple of, how do I phrase this? There is a poster that exists for Star Wars Episode 1, which is Jake Lloyd walking through the Tatooine desert, and the shadow is Darth Vader. Yes, and that was the best. It's one of the best posters I've ever seen. Like, it is incredible. Like, it's so well done. I would have loved to have seen some like darkness from Anakin early, you know, because the whole he has a lust for power. Like, that's the whole point of what makes him become Vader, is that really they talk about his love for Padme, and it is that, but it's also that he just wants control over everything, like everything. He wants to control everything, and that's what eventually leads him down this dark path. And I would have really liked to have seen the idea of, like, when Qui-Gon's talking about the Jedi and becoming a Jedi, if Anakin was like they are the most powerful and controlling people in the galaxy, they're amazing, kind of, you know what I mean? Like, to have some kind of thing where you see it from an early age, where he's just like, I want to be a Jedi so I can control everything. You know what I mean? Like, I can take over everything. Like, it would have been a nice little precursor into other things. The one thing I will talk to you about that I did want to talk about in this thing. What are your thoughts on the immaculate birth of Anakin Skywalker?
Immaculate birth.
He has no father.
I remember the first time I watched this with my parents, and when is it Shizme Skywalker?
Sheev? No, not Sheev. That's Palpatine. Yeah, whatever. Mama Skywalker.
Mama Skywalker said that line. I remember my mum turning to my stepdad and saying, "Like Jesus." When that line was said, like Jesus.
The thing is, right? They do explain it, but later they explain it much later, and then it's the whole link. So, do you understand why it happens or how it happens?
Yeah, in the comics, it then explains Palpatine's influence on the Force, wasn't it?
It's not Palpatine, no. So it's so he actually explains it in episode 3 when he's talking to Anakin, because he talks about his master Darth Plagueis the Wise, and he talks about the fact that Darth Plagueis got so in tune. Like Plagueis was a mun, so they're the really tall. They've got like really long heads.
Oh yeah,
and they live for hundreds of years. Like they live for a very long time, like a very, very long time. And he apparently got so in tuned with the Force and the understanding of the midichlorian beings that exist in all of us, apparently, that he could manipulate them. He could actually, through his own willpower, manipulate the midichlorians. He could even do it to the point where he could potentially create life.
I hate midichlorians.
I hate that as well.
Yeah.
So the idea was that they do explain it in the Palpatine novel as well. They talk about it, but Plagueis ran an experiment basically where he tried to create life. He tried to do it. He like built up this whole thing, and it didn't work. It didn't work for him. Like it was like, obviously I'm not in tune with the Force enough or anything like that. And then immediately after he tried it, that's when Palpatine killed him in his sleep.
Oh.
Except his experiment wasn't a failure. It was a success. It just didn't happen the way he thought it would. And he actually ended up getting Mama Skywalker pregnant. So Anakin is the result of that experiment where he manipulated the midichlorians to create life. And that's why it was an immaculate birth. So it is interesting when you think about it, though, because that means that Anakin is a product of the dark side.
Yeah.
I mean, he's literally a child of the dark side, and he's the chosen one. Anyway, who else were we going to talk about? So we were going to talk about Obi Wan, and we were going to talk about Darth Maul and Palpatine. What are your thoughts on Palpatine in this one? Because he's a little sniveling, brat, isn't he? In this one.
Yeah, I guess he has 2 scenes as Palpatine, but has more scenes as Darth Sidious.
Yeah,
because he has a lot of hologram calls.
Yeah, his phone bills must be a fortune, mustn't they? He's doing a lot of long distance calls.
But I guess the best part is his conversations with Darth Maul. I think that's the sort of like memorable moment, really, more than anything.
It's interesting to see kind of like as far as Senate Palpatine is concerned, it's interesting to see him kind of like doing that duality and that pretend facade that he kind of keeps up in the later series of like, I'm this sniveling senator and I'm just about politics and I don't have any real skills. Oh, don't hurt me, Master Jedi, kind of thing. You know, I'm just whatever I'm supposed to be. And then obviously you see the real him, which is Darth Sidious. Yeah, it's fascinating. I mean, obviously it develops more. This is, ironically enough, a lot of it is actually his story, these prequel trilogies. I know we talk about Vader becoming Vader, but it's actually a lot more about Sidious actually becoming the Emperor. That's what a lot of these stories are about. Well, you mentioned Darth Maul. Might as well go on. Darth Maul, for me, is probably the most wasted character in this entire franchise of films. So he's Ray Park. He's also Peter Serafinowicz, who is the voice. I love Darth Maul. Like, I absolutely love Darth Maul. I think, conceptually speaking, he visually is incredibly striking. And, you know, it's a Zabrak, so it's supposed to instill fear into people when you see him. Just everything about him is just effortlessly cool. Like, he's just cool, man. It's like he's like Vader. Like he's like that's exactly the kind of Sith I want to see from the prequel trilogy of like, visually striking, just like Darth Vader was, an amazing lightsaber, like dual, like when that thing came out, my God, the universe exploded. Like it was like, you know, everyone loves the dual bladed lightsaber. And like the thing that disappoints me the most about this film, like like the 100% biggest problem I have with this film is that they kill Darth Maul at the end of it. And let me explain to you why, Zane, right? I don't know whether Ray Park fell out with George Lucas. I don't know what the deal was. I don't know why he didn't come back. I don't know. And I'll probably look it up one day. But like, when you think about the way the trilogy matured, okay, the very next film, they replace Darth Maul with Count Dooku. Now, Christopher Lee was an icon and was an incredible actor, just a genius, and deserved a place in Star Wars. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
But I would argue that Count Dooku was not as physically imposing or terrifying as Darth Maul was.
Absolutely.
And where I saw it, right, where I saw it yesterday and I thought, man, they missed an opportunity with that. You didn't need to kill Darth Maul, okay?
No.
And also, Obi Wan was a Padawan in this thing. Like, I get that, like, Obi Wan is Obi Wan is one of the greatest Jedi ever. That's the whole point. They wanted to establish that. Fine, no problem. But like, the idea that Obi Wan could go up against the Sith Lord as a Padawan on his own and beat him. Yeah, I know that makes Obi Wan look really good. That's cool, but it also it kind of offsets the balance for a lot of things later on. You know, because then it's like, well, if a Padawan can kill a Sith Lord. So anyway, but you didn't need to cut him in half. Like, why did they cut him in half, Zane? Why didn't they just... He could have just easily been kicked down that vent, and then he's gone. Like, because I think it would have been way better. Like, this is my own personal thought of this. Darth Maul kills Qui-Gon. Fine. Dead. Done. No problem. No issues with that whatsoever. Obi-Wan and him fight to a standstill, with Obi-Wan eventually managing to either get away or get Darth Maul out of there so that he could have the moment with Qui-Gon. Right?
Sure. Yeah.
Then, in the later films, Darth Maul is the one responsible for the droid army. Darth Maul is the figurehead and the supposed Dark Lord of the Sith against all the other things. Darth Maul goes through episode 2, and then he goes into episode 3, and all the while, Anakin has this stoking revenge for Darth Maul killing the only father figure he's ever known in Qui-Gon. And then in episode 3, he finally gets to kill the man that has basically plagued him throughout the years and get his ultimate revenge, and that's what starts to snap him over the edge.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be way more emotional resonance for that character, and wouldn't it make much more sense than having, oh yeah, it was this guy who had some kind of involvement with Qui-Gon, and he's a bit past his prime, so we just thought, yeah, just put him in there, and Obi-Wan, Anakin can behead him. But you know what I mean? Wouldn't that make much more sense?
Yeah, I really like your idea. For me, go on.
No, I was going to say, the only reason I'm saying that is it's the gift of hindsight, because we do now know how cerebral Darth Maul was from watching Clone Wars and watching Rebels, because obviously he doesn't die from his fall; he does come back. But like, man, that guy had there's some good stuff that was itching under the surface, and you didn't even need Grievous. You didn't need Dooku. You could have literally had him leading the entire Separatist army and build him up as this massive force that when Anakin does kill him, it finally shows, oh my God, Anakin is like super OP as well. Like, this is crazy. But anyway.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like, I think having him around longer would be really cool. For me, Darth Maul works best when he is a not blunt instrument, but an instrument of war. Like, he's your sniper. He is, the assassinator of the Jedi. For me, that's when because his whole outfit is based on a sort of Ronin or ninja outfit.
Yeah, I know.
As you know, we've probably said previously on the podcast, like Jedi take a lot of influences from samurai and samurai aesthetics and things of that nature. But yeah, for me, Darth Maul works best as this sort of ninja who carries out the assassinations and orders and stuff.
Well, he's a Sith. He's a Sith assassin. That's what they describe him as in the lore.
And I really like the idea of him in the Clone Wars and stuff. But I find him leading maybe a coup. He's kind of like the Deathstroke to me. Like he's the Deathstroke of that universe in so many ways. Like brilliant combatant and tactician. But yeah, I think what would have been really cool, as you say, if he was, if it came to something like the Clone Wars and you had Dooku leading the larger army and he and Ventress were the two sort of captains, lieutenants maybe under him. I think that would be cool. But of course, the rule of two is something else, isn't it?
Yes, it's the rule of two for a start, but that kind of gets thrown out the window anyway when you add Ventress into it because she was around at the same time as Dooku. The thing that irritates me, I mean, you've said it right there though. Ventress is a dark Force user.
Mm-hmm.
She's not a Darth. You only become a Darth by being the heir to the throne, basically. You like the whole idea behind the Sith and the rule of two is that when you become a Darth, that is your ascension to Dark Lord. Like you are a Dark Lord of the Sith at that point. There should be no. That means that either the next time you and your master or whatever, or you and your apprentice have a fight, one of you is coming out of that and the other one isn't. Like that's the whole point of the Sith, is that they're built on strength, so that the apprentice will always either usurp the master or the master will kill the apprentice and get a more powerful apprentice to try next time. Sure. And like the fact that he's called Darth Maul, the idea is he's already a Dark Lord of the Sith. Like he is already a Dark Lord of the Sith. He's already OP. And yes, I understand what you're saying to me about him being an assassin and stuff, but what we've seen later on from Rebels and from Clone Wars is how intelligent he is and how manipulative he is. He manipulates Ezra into opening the Sith temple. He is a master manipulator. It's not just that he's one note assassin. And I think that he gets a really cool scene in Duel of the Fates, but there just needed to be more. Like there needs to be more of him
and longer. Yeah.
And I don't like the fact that you have these interchangeable apprentices for the Dark Lords. No, like stop killing them off. Jesus. We go through 3 Dark Lord apprentices in 3 films.
Yeah.
It's mental, mate. Like it's like what's the point?
Yeah.
Like, and also, I'm sorry, Darth Tyrannus. What a terrible name for Count Dooku. Who came up with that one? Were you in the bloody British Museum of History whilst you were looking at that? What are you doing?
I was just Googling. I was like, what is his Darth name? Like, I'm sure he had one. It's Tyrannus, yeah.
Just imagine that, though. It's like, what was Palpatine doing? Did he just look around his room and find a fossil? From this day forth, you shall be known as Darth Tyrannus. Tyrannus.
Yes.
Yeah. It's when he meant to call Anakin Fader, but because he just got electrocuted, he called him Vader. It was an accident. Darth Maul's such a wasted character for me, and I would have liked to have seen more of him. But I mean, I guess we should talk about the main event quite quickly. Obi Wan.
Yes.
You can tell Ewan McGregor was very excited to be in a Star Wars film.
Yeah,
because he's super invested in everything he does in this film, and it's lovely. It's very nice. That fight sequence with him and Darth Maul at the end, after Qui-Gon dies, I was watching it back and I was like, man, that is quick. Like, it is really fast. Like, the way that, I mean, Ray Parker's moves like lightning anyway, but the way that he's just like, and there's like the moving around and spins and stuff, it was like, wow, that's really awesome. you can see what led into the Anakin Obi-Wan fight later on in episode 3, where it just becomes even more crazy. But yeah, like, what do you think of Obi-Wan in this one?
Yeah, he is fantastic, but the sad part is, it's like a third of this movie, he's just stuck on a ship somewhere.
Yeah.
It's not until the Duel of Fates, like, that performance gives you everything. Like, you feel the devastation with Qui-Gon passing. Even the fight itself, it's with such ferocity, and like,
it's interesting. Yeah, they never tap into that, do they? Because obviously,
No.
like, he was obviously in like rage mode after Qui-Gon dies, and that's how he beats Darth Maul. I guess that's the whole point of how he was able to beat him but they never established that he could have almost slipped to the dark side with that.
Yeah, and even in the small things in that fight, like, I think he gets kicked in the face, but instead of kind of like falling on his back, he just instantly flips into it and just carries on. Do you know what I mean? Because he's just that so enraged of like carrying on. I think the only time he levels out is once he falls again, but hangs off the like little ledge bit.
Yeah.
I think that's the only time he kind of like resets. Okay.
Yeah, he centers himself. That's the only time he's able to then beat him. Yeah, it's fascinating. Again, I just don't like the fact that he had to chop him in half to beat him. He could have quite easily kicked him down that pit, like, and then we don't see him die, and it's ambiguous, left ambiguous as to whether he's dead or not, and then you see him in the next film. Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think Ewan McGregor had enough to do in this film. I would argue that Ewan McGregor didn't have enough to do in this whole prequel trilogy, because I don't think he gets much to do in the second one either, really. Apart from have a fabulous mullet. It's a shame, because that's why I'm excited, I think, about Obi Wan Kenobi, because the series, because I think he's finally going to have a lot of stuff that he can really get his teeth into. Because, the main takeaways from Ewan McGregor in the prequel trilogy were mullet, hello there, which is everywhere, and then killing younglings. And those are the 3 takeaways, apart from the amazing fights, obviously. And it's just kind of like, he has something with that character, whether it's that weird Alec Guinness connection between the two of them or whatever it is, but he has something where he's so fundamentally watchable as Obi-Wan. You want to watch him and see what he's going to do. And I think it was sad that in the prequels he didn't get enough to do, really. Like, really, he didn't get enough to do. So
yeah,
that's why I'm super excited to see this series just focus completely around him. It's going to be great. It's going to be great.
I think, for me personally, the third film, he's more charming. Because I think with the second one, he can come across a bit rocky, because he's quite sarky in the second one. But the third one, and I always remember it, but it's the sequence where him and Anakin keep score of like who saves who.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, that second time, and it doesn't count. It doesn't count. And that's such a like little sort of like, oh, you're amazing. Like,
with the series, I hope that's why they've put Hayden Christensen in this, is that they're going to do some flashbacks to establish the friendship between the two of them, because they didn't do enough of it before he becomes Darth Vader. And there's like, talking about that brevity and that lightheartedness of it. There's a bit where, following on from that, where they have to land the Star Destroyer, not the Star Destroyer, but they land the droid ship basically on Coruscant. And it's like this big, like, emotional, like, weighted scene where, they're going to survive or they're not going to survive. And it shows off how good of a pilot Anakin is, that he can basically just, like, land a brick on a planet, and it's fine. And then at the end of it, Obi-Wan's just like, another happy landing. And it's like, I love you, Ewan McGregor. You're amazing. You're amazing. But yeah, I can't wait. He wasn't used enough. He's very good when he's on screen, not on screen enough. And yeah, I love him. I love him.
Oh.
But folks, what are your thoughts on episode 1 and the prequel trilogy as a whole? Did you like them? Did you hate them? Did you reflect back on them and think, they weren't so bad, were they? Let us know. Write in. Are you excited for Obi-Wan? We want to know as well. Zane, how can they get a hold of us?
You can get a hold of us on via email. You could email us, nerdsundisputed@gmail.com. Of course, you could check us out on Twitter, Instagram, at undisputed, at underscore. No, wait, at
You're right,
undisputed _ nerds.
At undisputed_nerds. Yep, we're on there. You can also find me on the gram at Gentlemanly Gamer. You can also find me sometimes on Twitch, although I'm dialing back a bit. Twitch.tv/Gentlemanly Gamer. I think, Zane, is it right in saying that next week we're probably going to talk about the first episode of Obi Wan?
Potentially, and I don't think I'm here. I think you might have a special guest.
Listen, it's either going to be a special guest that we've had on the show before, or it's going to be one of the most awkward podcasts where I talk for an hour by myself. So we shall see what happens, folks. But yes, next week it will be Gent running the show. Finally, after all this time, consolidating my unlimited power. I'll be on Undisputed Anime next.
Hey, talking of unlimited power, don't forget to check out Surfshark VPN. Link will be in description down below. And yeah,
all right,
check us out next week.
Oh, check me out next week, you mean, Zane?
Yeah, I guess.
Have a good holiday, Zane. We'll see you in a few weeks. Bye.